Hello and welcome back to So Forth and So On. I am Miss Henderson and today I want to show you how to use your current pair of pants to make another pair of pants. Now this is a simple pull-on pair of pants with an elastic waist, so there are no zippers and buttons and snaps. You can use this technique for leggings, sweatpants, pajama pants, or a regular pair of elastic waisted pants to wear for outerwear. Basically what you do is get a pair of pants that you already have, and I'm using small doll clothing now for demonstration purposes. So you get a pants that you already have that have an elastic waist. These happen to have a cinched ankle, but you can do these with a regular straight leg pant or again a legging. So the first thing you want to do is grab the pants and fold them in half like this. And it might be a good idea to iron them once you get them, but you want to follow the seam. You want to fold them right at the seam. Make sure the seams are meeting, the back and front seams are meeting, and you fold them right in that crotch area on the seam. And then down that inner seam on the leg, you want to make sure those inner seam that is folded right on that inner seam. So again, it may take a little bit of finagling or manipulating or working around, but make sure it's on the seam so that you can get a good cut. And once you have that on the seam, like I said, I would iron it down, or you can go ahead and just pin it, making sure that everything is matched up. So it may take a few minutes for you to get it straightened out, but it's worth the extra time to go ahead and get it straightened out. You want your pants to fit properly, so make sure you have your seams matching, and then just pin that together. Make sure that the outer edge is nice and straight and all the fabric is smooth and flat. And again, to ensure that it stays that way, pin it and or iron it down. The next thing you can do is going to be make sure that you see your waistline here, you have two. So since this is the front of the pants, we're going to take this and fold it down and just have the one waistline showing at the top. And you can pin that in there. I use more pins with, beginner. As you do this more and more, you won't need as many pins, but the first time you do it, you want to pin it like that. Your pants like that. Okay? So now the next thing you want to do, you can use a piece of paper, or you can go directly onto your fabric. If you think you're going to be making several pairs like this, and you probably will, you probably want to get a large sheet of paper that your pants will fit on and trace around it. When I'm making my own patterns, I like to use poster board or large wrapping paper. Rolls of wrapping paper with the grids on the back are excellent for making patterns, and you can roll them up and put them away. The poster board are great to make patterns on because they're sturdy, and again, they can be put away. I slide them behind something, and so they fit right behind between the wall and a piece of furniture or something, or under the bed. So they store easily and they're durable if you're using them over and over again. So that's just a tip about what to use to make patterns. However, for this particular demonstration, I'm just going to go ahead and use fabric. So I'll take my fabric and I'll have it folded in half. This is a lot of fabric here. Let's see if we can work it out. So I just need a fold, so I don't have the whole fabric cut in half. As a matter of fact, what I think I'll do is I'll cut what I'm going to use and then get rid of the rest so we can see. And this pair of pants, to make these pair of pants, shouldn't take more than 30 minutes to an hour. Maybe as a beginner it would take an hour, but again, by the time you make your third pair, you have it done in less than 30 minutes. Unless you're adding embellishments and extra stuff, which is fine. That's the whole point of making your own garments, is to make them the way you want them. Okay, so I've gotten rid of the fabric that I'm not going to use for this project. Alright, so this is folded in half. And I'll take my pattern piece, which is the existing, you're cloning your clothes, that's what it is. And I'll put it on the fabric. Now the straight edge should be on the fold, and the crotch side should be facing out. And you can go ahead and pin that to your fabric. And I would leave the existing pins in and just use some more pins to pin this so that I don't mess up my lines. So just go ahead and pin your pants to the fabric. And again, if you're using tracing paper, or you're going to make a pattern first, then you can pin them to that or use pattern weights. And so this is how it'll end up looking on the fabric. Okay? So now if you're tracing, you want to use your marker or your chalk, and you want to trace about a 1/2 inch around. And like, it's always good to make a pattern so that you want to do it again, you don't have to do the pattern again. You already have the pattern. And at the bottom here where it's cinched, I'm just going to go straight down a little ways and then come across. And you determine how long you want your pants to be by measuring from your waist to the floor, however long you want. If you want to come to your ankles to the floor, make sure you leave allowance for a hem. For the top edge, where it cinches in from the elastic, just take it straight up. Don't cinch it in. So if you can see this line, it just goes straight up because this is elastic that takes it up, so it should really just, that edge goes straight up. Okay, so you're either going to trace it on the fabric or your poster board or your wrapping paper or your trace, whatever you're going to use for the pattern. And if you don't trace it, you can just cut it directly out. Cut it out. And this fabric I'm using is fleece. But you can use, now the thing too is whatever type of fabric you're using as your pattern is what you have to use, that same type of fabric. So if you're using a woven fabric, if you're using a woven fabric, you can use a knit or a woven. But if you're using a stretchy fabric, then you need to use a stretchy fabric. Otherwise, it won't fit. If you use stretchy leggings and you're going to cut it out on cotton fabric, you're going to run into a problem. So when using stretchy fabric as your pattern, you must use it on another stretchy fabric. But if you're using a woven fabric, it will work. You can use a woven fabric as the pattern for a stretchy. And I don't want to confuse you. I probably just did, but I didn't mean to. Okay. So now you want to do the same thing on the other side of your pants. You remove the pins. You have the front done. And you can put a pin or something marking it as the front pattern. So that's the front pattern. And the next we're going to do the back pattern. And it's the same technique except that you're going to fold the pants in the opposite direction. So here's my front pants. Okay, so now we just take them, open them, and fold them the other direction, making sure to line up your inseam and all your seams the same way you did before. And again, pin them in place so that you'll keep things all aligned. Nice and lined up. And this time you're going to place the straight edge on the fold of your fabric again. And your waist sits right there. The front waist is on the inside naturally, so don't worry about that. Go ahead and pin it to your fabric or to your paper, making sure you have that crotch seam there as well. And you're going to go ahead and trace. Again, when you get to this side, to this point here, just go straight up. Do not curve in for the waist, just go straight up. So this time I'm not going to use so many pins. But one thing I am going to do is put the waist together here so that I can get the same length on each pant leg. So you can draw that on if you're making a pattern, or you can just cut it like I'm doing here. Okay. And once we get up, okay. And so we're all set there. Now you want to measure this waist. I'm not going to add a waistband, so we're going to use this, we're going to fold that down to make the waistband. But in some instances, you can add an additional waistband if you want it higher. Okay, so we set the pattern aside. We're done with these. And now we have two pieces that look like this. This is the back. This is the front. Okay, so we're going to take them, one piece folded in half, right sides together, and you're going to sew from the inseam down from the crotch down the inseam to the end, to the bottom. So this is the top, this is the bottom. You're going to sew from here all the way down. And you're going to do that on both sides. Let's get my machine here. And I'm going to sew. And I'm going to use a straight stitch. Stitch length is 2. Okay, and we're going to back stitch at the beginning and the end of our stitches. do a 1/2 inch seam allowance, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch seam allowance. I happen to have a walking foot on my sewing machine right now because I was quilting, but since I'm using fleece, that's fine. And all the walking foot does is just help the fabric, thicker fabrics, go through a little easier, so it's fine. So this is one leg done, and we're going to do the other leg. And the beautiful thing about fleece is it doesn't fray, so it doesn't have to be hemmed or anything like that. So again, turn the pant leg right side facing, and sew from the crotch area here all the way down the pant leg to the hem. We use a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch seam allowance, straight stitch. And every so often you may have to stop and readjust your fabric to make sure that it's straight. So do that. Okay. And cut our loose threads. And believe it or not, we are almost done. Okay, so now you have 2 legs like this. Now with one, you just want to reach in and pull it right side out. And then you want to place it inside the other pant leg. So you have one, this one is right side out, this one is wrong side out. You want to take the right side out, place it inside the wrong side out so that both seams are facing each other. Right sides together. The pants are right sides together at this point. You can open that seam that you just sewn in, open those, make sure those are open to give it a flatter surface, and then pin the pants together right at that seam. And then go ahead and straighten everything out so that everything is even. Now your pants will be larger, so it won't be this difficult. When you're smaller, sometimes they get a little difficult to work with, but no worries. Alright, and you want to start sewing at the top of that, and you could put some pins in just to keep everything lined up and straight, because they're not going to be quite even at the top because one is the front and one is the back. So to keep them even throughout, just put a few pins in so that your fabric, you get a good seam. And you do that. This is what we call the U shape. The U right here. And we want that U to be nice and smooth, so we won't be walking like a cowboy in our pants. I'm just putting a few pins in. And once I do that, you're going to sew all along the U, from the top of this side down to the crotch area, back up to the other side. Again, we're going to use a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch seam allowance, straight stitch, back stitching at the beginning and the ending of when we start. come to them. Do not sew over your pins. And go ahead and straighten out your fabric and make sure things are nice and neat before proceeding. You might have to lift your presser foot and use a stiletto or scissors or something to lay down that fabric at the inseam where everything comes together. This little pin was hiding from me. That could have been just a terrible situation if I hadn't seen it. And that's why I like to use clips. You can't accidentally run over or sew over clips, wonder clips. Okay, so we have cut our thread and we've sewn all the way around that U, and I'm just clipping the loose threads there. And so this is what it looks like. You sewn all the way down around here, okay? And now we just reach in and pull that leg out, and look what we have. Look what we have. Pair of pants for Olivia. Okay, so now what you want to do, make sure that seam is open, and you want to fold this down maybe about 1/2 inch. Now because it's fleece, I'm not going to do a double fold, but if it were a woven fabric, something that frayed, then you could do the double fold. But since it's fleece and it doesn't fray, I'm not going to do the double fold, but I'm folding it down like that, about 1 inch. I'm going to remove that part of the machine so that I can fit this underneath. You can pin it if you want to, but we want to pin close to the lower edge. You want to sew close to the lower edge of the fabric. And I'm even going to move my needle to the left. And we're going to sew all the way around, leaving about a 1 or 2 inch opening just before here. So you might want to put a clip or something, a pin. This is where I'm going to stop, right there. We need to get the elastic in. Always helps when you put your pressure foot down. And right here you can use a zigzag stitch if you want to add a little more interest to your garment. So that's what I'm going to do. So I lengthen my stitch length to 3, and I put a width of 3 for the zigzag. And you just want to make sure your fabric stays under the presser foot. And remove your pins as you get to them. Okay, we've gotten all the way around. Cut our threads. Now, you have a couple options of finishing this off. You can put some elastic in the waist. You put a safety pin on there and feed the elastic all the way through, and you can tie the elastic in a knot and you have a pair of pants. You can hem these if you want, or you don't have to, because again, they are fleece and they won't fray. You can hem them, turn up a quarter of an inch or whatever, and hem them, and you're done. Or you can close up that canal we just did all together. Just close it all the way up and snip a little opening on either side of the seam there. And the way you do that is pinch that and snip and pinch on the other side, and you can measure. If we're just, if it's just pajamas for yourself, you know. But if you're making them as giveaway as a gift or sale or what have you, you want to measure about 1 inch from the center and put your little slit there. And then grab you a piece of ribbon or you can use a piece of fabric. So like this, let's take this, and we have our safety pin. And that's the thing about when you're sewing, you change your mind as you go sometimes. You're always creating and designing even as you're sewing. So, you take the safety pin and put it on your ribbon, and you feed it through that little one of the slits that you just cut in the fabric, just like you would the elastic. You're just doing it with the ribbon now. And you're going to go all the way around. Be careful not to pull the ribbon or whatever you're using all the way through. So when you get to a point, just watch and make sure that that doesn't come all the way through. Or else you have to start all over. And if you're going to use this method, you will go ahead and close the channel that you were sewing in on the way. Just close it all together. You don't have to leave an opening. And you go around feeding this through. It's almost like the drawstring bag that we made once before. And then once you get around to the front, you bring it through that other slit that you cut in. And remove your safety pin. And pull it all the way through. And then just put a knot at the end of each side of the rope. And you might want to cut it a little shorter. Let me see. I'm going to put my knot right there to be equal with this one. And then I'll cut the rest off. Okay. And so you have your knot there. And now you have your pajama pants and their drawstring. Tie them up and you cinch the waist. So you made a pair of drawstring pajama pants. But again, depending on the fabric you use and what you do, these are regular pants, sweatpants, or just regular pants. Here is our model. This is Olivia, and she is wearing the pants that we just made for her. They look good too. So these were Olivia's original pants that went with her outfit. And we used her original pants to make her another pair of pants. And she has the drawstring waist. And they fit her very nicely. Olivia will probably be making a lot more appearances. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you make yourself a pair of these pants. And again, remember, if you don't want to use a drawstring, then you can do the elastic all the way around like you would normally do. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And until we get together again, may love bring you to your feet again and show you how to dream again in Jesus' name. Amen. Good night.